chlorophyll, because it's fat-based, helps the cell wall be healthy. So now nutrients can flow in and toxins can flow out. And if your cell walls are not healthy, I'd say it's like having dirty windows. You can't see out, and the sunshine can't get in. So it's just a bad overall.
Welcome to Black Belt Beauty Radio, a podcast fueled by a passion to support your journey in developing your most beautiful and optimal performance in life. Each episode is driven with the intention to elevate your mind. When we elevate our mind, we elevate our life. So get ready. It's time to rise. Hey, what's up, everyone? So today's episode is the first of its kind because it's not just a conversation, but it's a conversation that stems from a brand that I am a huge supporter of. But really, it's one part the brand, and it's, one part what the brand is and why. So let's get to it. Who is this person and what is the brand? Her name is Catharine Arnston. She is the founder and CEO of Energy Bits. Energy Bits is a very pure and amazing company provider of algae. So what's algae? Think spirulina and chlorella. And if you guys don't know what that is yet, or even if you do know some of what spirulina and chlorella is all about, I can assure you that after this episode with Catharine, you are going to be so much more tuned in to the powerful benefits of algae and why it's so important to add to your daily diet. So when I first discovered Catharine, it was through a Ben Greenfield podcast that it's in the show notes. It's definitely worth going back and listening to as well. So I had already been tuned in to, some of the health benefits of algae, and I would consume spirulina, not every day, but it was, a part of my regimen for sure, until I listened to all of the science-backed information that Catharine unpacked in this episode with Ben Greenfield. That was so impressive. There was just no way for me not to want to make algae an everyday part of my diet. I mean, this is not just for biology geeks like me. This is for anyone who wants to feel good, feel great every day, because, feeling great helps us perform great. So the other part of it too is, just knowing, the organizations that support Energy Bits, her brand, because of the efficacy, like NASA. I mean, no big deal, right? So it's all legit. And I, for sure, am never going to support brands that A, aren't legit, and B, I don't have personal experience with to say, yeah, this stuff is so good. I feel it. It has made a very tremendous difference in my overall performance. And Energy Bits is truly, it's a brand that does that for me. So I'm excited for you guys to learn about, algae and the health benefits behind it, to learn more about, Energy Bits in particular. And my hope is that you make algae a part of your daily diet, because I really deem this superfood to be a tool in the arsenal of kick-ass. And everything, I want to share as many of these tools with you guys as I can to help you perform at your best levels in life. So with that being said, please enjoy this nutritious and delicious conversation with Catharine Arnston of Energy Bits. Catharine, thank you so much for being on Black Belt Beauty Radio with me. I am so looking forward to this episode with you. Ever since I listened to your podcast episode last year with Ben Greenfield, I completely fell in love with your brand. I'm an avid user every single day. I would love to, get a little bit of your background shared with our audience today of how you came to be kind of like Mama Algae, if you
right. Or the algae lady, I know.
The algae lady. Okay. Algae queen. Cool.
I probably sound like a character out of the movie that won the Academy Award. Was it The Water?
Shape of Water, Shadow.
Shape of Water, right?
Yeah. It makes sense.
Shape of algae. Out of the Blue Lagoon comes the algae lady.
That's so great.
It's too funny. Well, I never expected to be doing, working in algae. I have an MBA. I'm Canadian, and I was doing a traditional corporate job. And then my younger sister developed breast cancer. She's fine now, and that was 10 years ago. But her oncologist, which is the cancer expert, advised her that she should change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would help her with her healing, because she was going to go through the chemotherapy. So she got home and she realized they didn't tell her what that was or why it worked. So she called me, not because I knew anything about nutrition either, but I'm a really good researcher. So I said, don't worry, big sis is here. I will find out what it is, and we will do this together, and hang in there. So I did some deep dives on Google. This was like 10 years ago. Nobody was talking about plant-based nutrition. And I found out that an alkaline diet was predominantly that. It was an alkaline plant-based diet because of all the chlorophyll and the phytonutrients found in plants that help build your immune system. And we'll go through some of the things, what they do and how that all works. And eliminating very highly acidic foods like processed foods and dairy and the coffee and stuff, and wine, sadly. So anyway, she changed her diet. She went through her chemo. She completely healed. 10 years later, knock on wood, she's still cancer-free. But the process not only changed her, but me too, because then I started reading about plant-based diets and the science that had been around for, decades. And I thought, my gosh, why haven't I heard about this? And someone needs to tell everybody else. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I will. So I literally gave up my 25-year corporate career, got myself back to school. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, fondly known as IIN. There's probably lots of people in your community that have also gone there. Yeah. It was a certificate course for a year. It was almost a year, and it taught me how to teach health counseling to people and gave me a base level of knowledge of nutrition. And then I taught nutrition for a year at corporations and hospitals for free. I gave workshops trying to encourage people to eat more greens because I knew the power of the green nutrients. But I learned during that period that everybody knows they need to be healthier by eating more greens, but most people don't do it because they either don't like the flavor or it's too much work, it's just messy, too much prep, blah, 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 blah. So I thought, well, how can I save the world if I can't get people eating more greens? So I thought, okay, regroup, got to find something that's green, easy, fast, doesn't taste green. And I just went back and started researching again. And I recalled the algae tablets that I had found for my sister, and I thought, well, let's check those out. And sure enough, as I did a deep dive in the science of algae, I thought, oh my God, I've hit the mother lode, because it is the most nutrient-dense food in the world, is the most green. We'll talk about the fact that it has 1,000 times more chlorophyll than anything else. It's been used for 50 years in Asia. It's been used for 200 years for nutrition. It's endorsed by NASA, the United Nations, the Carnegie Institute. It's a rock star nutritionally and in lockdown in terms of the science. And the only problem with algae is that outside of Asia, where it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, virtually nobody knows about it. Unless there's a few homeopaths and some people put it in their smoothies, but nobody's really taken the time to truly educate people, consumers or practitioners or athletes, why this stuff is so good for you and how it works from a biological and nutritional biochemistry perspective, and why it's so important to be sure that you're getting your algae from a safe supplier like us, because there's lots of little things under the hood that people don't know about. So that's what I decided I would do. If I just wanted to first help my sister, and then I thought, well, I can help a few more people. And then I just kept going, and 9 years later, here I am. I'm the algae lady, and educating anyone who will listen to me. But it's very exciting because we're changing lives every single time someone buys a bag of this, and we'll tell you some of the things that our customers have told us that have happened in their lives. So it's truly a passion of mine, and it's my purpose. It's my path. All the P's.
I love it so much.
Yeah, so it's great. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I'm set. Well, me and algae. Yeah.
Sounds like a good life to me.
Yeah. Well, I was on Shark Tank last year, and they didn't invest in me, which is fine. And I think Robert, he said, we're not investing in you because we don't really think you have a business. We don't think you're in love with being a business person. We just think you're in love with algae. And I stopped for a second and I said, well, You got me there. I do love algae. So.
Well, it's obvious. I mean, listening to you talk about it, I think it's one thing to kind of have the knowledge and the science, but your delivery, it's made with passion, and I feel that tremendously, and that actually, I think it helps the listeners to be able to kind of absorb all the stuff that you're sharing, because this is complex stuff. Biology is so complex. So, but it's also so important. So, I'm grateful that you took the initiative and went the path that you did and created this incredible brand, and I want to share you as much as I can, because I do, I like to frame it like this, like we're all, conductors of energy, and how we walk around this earth feeling, we're affecting everything around us too.
Exactly.
So, so when we feel good, we're giving that energy off, and that makes a difference. And there's a ripple effect to that,
Right.
And so people like yourselves who are, doing what you're doing, I'm totally behind you, especially too, because like you said, I mean, I know that we'll get into this because I love this so much. But there's a lot of brands out there, and there's a lot of, companies doing
noise.
but not all of these brands are delivering quality, clean, products that, and that can be potentially more dangerous to even take something that you think is actually healthy for you, but like you said, under the hood there's actually so I feel so safe and trust your brand so much, which again is why it's so rad to have you on here. So I think that when people think of algae, maybe they're like, what's that? I mean, I know that.
Well, maybe I can give you a little sort of background, because there's a lot of misperceptions about algae, so let me try to simplify it. First of all, if anybody knows about it, they probably only think of it as pond scum, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Like I say, it's a nutritional rock star. It should probably have its own star on the Walk of Fame or whatever.
Yeah.
But the first perception I need to clarify is that it's not grown in the ocean. A lot of people are very worried about taking algae because we know the oceans are full of toxins, and which is why a lot of people don't eat tuna, rightfully so. Although you could if you took chlorella afterwards.
Right.
This algae and there's 25,000 strains of them. It's the other thing I need to let people know. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of variations, of which virtually every one of them will make you sick and possibly kill you. So you don't want to just stroll down to your neighborhood lake, or you bend over in your swimming pool and scoop up a bunch of algae that's floating around there, because that will probably not do you any good. The ones that are grown for their crops, so the two we're going to talk about are spirulina and chlorella. They're the most popular, and the ones that have been used for 60 or 70 years. And this is a crop. So this is the other important thing. Algae is not a supplement. A lot of people think it's a supplement. Supplements are made in labs from extracts of other nutrients. And very often there can be a blend of things in there that you don't even really know what's in the supplement, because if it's a small enough amount, it doesn't even have to go on the label, which is why athletes need to be very careful about, especially for professional athletes, about their supplements, because there could be something on there that could cause a flare-up, and you get caught and you find out you've got a banned substance in your body, and now your career is over. Right. Algae is not made in a lab. It is not a supplement. It is no different than kale or broccoli. It is a type of vegetable. So it's grown what's called hydroponically in large outdoor tanks. Our water tanks are in Taiwan, and I selected Taiwan because almost all the algae is grown in Asia, but it's grown in Japan, China, Taiwan, India, and a little bit in Hawaii. And most of the algae in China is low quality. This is the stuff that you get at Target or Trader Joe's, and I beg you not to take that algae, because the quality control is very poor. They often use binders, and I've seen pictures of tablets with ground up rocks to make them look bigger. And so I found that Taiwan has, because it's a very important crop there, very high strict regulation controls. So that's where we grow ours, is in Taiwan, and they're grown outdoors. I'm a purist. We want it with Mother Nature's beautiful sunshine in triple filtered mountain aquifer water. So it's really clean water. And this is so important because algae absorbs whatever's in the water. So if you start with really pure water, you're going to have really pure algae. And then all we do is we air dry it. So no flash heat like the cheaper versions, which use flash heat because it dries faster, but it kills the enzymes and also degrades the nutrients. So we don't do that. And then we just press the water out into these little tablets. So there's no binders.
Wow.
So there is nothing else in our product except the actual algae. It's pure, grown in water, and probably the safest food you'll ever have because it's tested in Taiwan. And then when we get our algae imported here in large quantities and we package it all here, I then pay tens of thousands of dollars to another lab, an FDA-approved lab here in the U.S., to test them all a second time. And for contaminants, metals, purity, nutrient quality, and I share those lab results with all the doctors or nutritionists or anybody who wants to work with us so they can see how clean and pure our algae is. And Ben was one of the first ones who insisted on that. So, and then we were working with a group with the Olympics, and they also needed that. So now we do it every year. And that's why we're the only algae that's endorsed by doctors because they've seen the tests themselves and they see the purity and the lack of metals. And we'll talk later on when we get to chlorella about how most chlorella contains lead, which is not such a good thing.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. That was a real thing.
Yeah. So just to recap, it's not grown in the ocean; it's grown in fresh water, and it doesn't use we don't use flash heat, and there's only one ingredient, and it's not a supplement. In fact, here's a really cool thing, and I never, until a couple of years ago, I was worried about telling people this. So we have spirulina, which was the first plant life on Earth 3.5 billion years ago. Now remember, humans only showed up 800 million years ago, so algae has been here a lot longer than we have, and it's still here. So you have to say to yourself, okay, there's got to be something special about this little guy.
Totally.
He was the first one here, and he's still here. But technically, spirulina, which was the first plant life on Earth, is a bacteria. Now, I used to hesitate to tell people that because bacteria used to be considered the bad guy. Right. But now we all know that our bodies have more bacteria than we have cells, and that actually we need that bacteria to function properly. It's so critical to your stomach biome. So spirulina does not have a cellulose wall, does not have a nucleus. It is called a cyanobacteria. And I think that's one of the miracles of why it's so beneficial, because it sort of plays in the sandbox of bacteria really well, because we've got all these other bacteria in our stomach. And it's one of the reasons why the athletes love it so much, because it gets into your bloodstream almost instantly, because there is nothing for your body to break down. As with cellulose or other food groups, there's nothing, it just gets absorbed. And it gets so absorbed so quickly that all the other minerals and the protein, which is an amino acids, it all gets into your bloodstream within 10 minutes or seconds if you chew it. That's pretty powerful because it takes 2 to 3 days to digest most animal protein, and then you only absorb about 10% of it as amino acids. And with the algae, particularly spirulina, it's 99% bioavailable. So it's what I call efficient nutrition.
I love it. It's literally what I start every morning with. It's kind of like the first food, if you will, that enters my system. And it, I do intermittent fasting throughout the week here and there. And I always feel, I just a few of my little tablets, actually not a few. I go above the 30, Catherine. They're good. I love them so much, but it sustains hunger. I just feel it's kind of like you're taking a vitamin, but it's just natural. It's food. It tastes so good to me too. I'm weird.
Well, yeah. Well, you're not, because I was actually at the we exhibited at the Bulletproof conference, and we do a lot of wellness conferences where there's professionals and biohackers, and almost everybody in that community loves to chew them because they're so used to eating clean, and that's sort of how you feel when you eat this or swallow it, but eating particularly. Because it's just so clean. Your body intuitively knows that this is good for you. And the best way, certainly for the spirulina, the best way to describe how you feel is I tell people you just feel fresh.
Yeah.
You just feel like you've had a great night's sleep. You're alert. There's no jacking up of your energy like from caffeine or sugar, and there's no crash. You're just a nice, totally even alertness.
Totally.
And
like throughout the day, sometimes when if I feel a little lower in energy, I carry little packs with me of my energy bits, and I just open one up and throw it down, and I exactly what you're saying. I get kind of revived in a really stable, feel good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even on the boxes in our packaging, I say that algae is sort of like your best friend. They're always there for you. They go the distance with you in a subtle way. They got your back. And you can't ever have too many of them. And, some people, if they don't want to take the full 30, if you're a petite build or maybe you're anemic, we had one customer, she said she felt so energized after 2 tablets and she had been anemic. That day she cleaned her house, she painted her kitchen, and this is a woman who had been anemic and on basically sleeping most of the day. So, So we know they work. So that was sort of like a bit of an overview on spirulina, and it's considered a blue-green algae. And the reason why it's a blue-green algae is that it has a pigment, it has 2 pigments in it. One is chlorophyll, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And the other pigment is called phycocyanin, which is maybe too geeky for you, many of your listeners, but basically it's a blue pigment that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature. And it's such a beautiful blue that when you do buy any, I encourage you to take a few of them, put them on a plate, white plate preferably, and put some water on it. And you will see a color that looks like the Aegean Sea. It's the same color as on our packaging. It is gorgeous. But what's so amazing about that pigment is it has healing properties that can't be found anywhere else. And one of those healing properties is called anti-angiogenesis. What this blue pigment does is it stops the growth of blood vessels to tumors or cancer. When cancers or tumors grow, they basically hijack your blood vessels and reroute them to feed the growth of the cancer cells. And this pigment stops it. It's like, no, you are not going there. So, and we didn't even know that. We were contacted by a cancer research organization, and they said, did you know that your spirulina does this? And we said, no, we didn't. And they invited us to be at their conference. So that's how we, and that organization is called ngo.org. So there's lots of remarkable healing benefits to that pigment that, like I said, it doesn't exist anywhere else in nature. And an interesting side note is that the Mars company that makes the M&Ms, they've been trying to, all the food companies are realizing that sugar is really a demon, and so are the chemicals that are in so many of our foods, and they need to replace them with things that are healthy. And they discovered this beautiful blue from spirulina. And guess what? All of the blue that's in your M&Ms now, for your blue M&Ms, if you're eating any, which you shouldn't be anyways, they're dyed with the spirulina, and they M&M company hired a company to grow spirulina for them just for the blue pigment. How cool is that?
Cool. That's really cool. That's a fun side note. I love that.
Yeah.
Step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. So spirulina was the first plant life on Earth, blue-green algae, technically a bacteria. And then about 1 billion years later, because all algae releases oxygen when it's growing. So it literally, it is what provides 80 to 90% of the oxygen on Earth. And so prior to spirulina, Earth was just gas and water. And then whatever caused the spirulina to grow, who knows, but it released enough oxygen so that other plant forms could grow. And the next plant was chlorella. Chlorella is technically a plant, but it doesn't have any of the nutrients of plants like oxalates. So it's really, we call it a sea vegetable. So the cool thing about chlorella is that spirulina has the highest concentration of protein in the world, and the Germans won a Nobel Prize for discovering this. So anything I tell you is documented completely scientifically.
I love that. That's important.
So spirulina has the most protein, up to 70%. Sometimes ours has 64%, and chlorella has the highest concentration of chlorophyll. Now, chlorophyll is also a pigment, just like that blue pigment I mentioned, but chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment. And the reason why this is so important is that we're learning now that all our health issues, everything stems from this health of your cell. And even within the cell, it's the mitochondria, which are responsible for the production of ATP. So you want to keep that cell and the cell wall really healthy, because that's what determines everything else. So that's why omega-3s are important, because they help with the cell wall health. But so does chlorophyll, because chlorophyll is a fat-based antioxidant. So when you talk about, so when my sister's doctor said, well, we want you on a plant-based diet or alkaline diet because it's healing and it's cleansing, I always wonder, well, what's so healing and cleansing about it? Well, this is what it is. The chlorophyll, because it's fat-based, helps the cell wall be healthy. So now nutrients can flow in and toxins can flow out. And if your cell walls are not healthy, I'd say it's like having dirty windows. You can't see out, and the sunshine can't get in. So it's just a bad overall. And your cell health, if you don't have proper fats to keep those cell walls healthy, you run into the same problem. That's why so many people are following ketogenic diets now, because of the high fat content. But you can get all these benefits from chlorophyll, from the fat and the cleansing properties of the phytonutrients. So a lot of people don't have like greens. Well, guess what? If you have at least a serving of the chlorella, which we call ours recovery bits, because it helps you recover your health, you're good. You don't get the fiber, but you get all the chlorophyll that you need to be healthy.
Which is so important.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say one thing that I love to kind of, magnesium is at the center of chlorophyll, right? And over 300 genes in our body are dependent on magnesium. So if we don't have adequate levels of magnesium, which, America doesn't eat that many greens, you're not going to have adequate levels. And when those genes aren't, working optimally, it's a problem. And maybe it not in the immediate, but in the long game, it'll show up in some way, shape, or form. So I love that, the chlorophyll content in algae, it makes it easier for those who aren't able to kind of throw back as much plants as I do in my diet, to kind of just assure that they are getting more of that magnesium as well. So love that.
Well, there is a lot of magnesium. There's all of what's called electrolytes, all the minerals in the algae, but chlorophyll actually has, I think it's iron in the middle of the atom. So but this brings an interesting point that, and I can send you the image of this for your notes. The chemical composition of chlorophyll is identical to the chemical composition of your hemoglobin. Identical. Except for this one atom that's at the center. And but so you're right. I'm sorry. Chlorophyll does have the magnesium in the center, and in your hemoglobin, it's iron, and it's that iron atom that makes your blood red. And I tell people, look, if it wasn't for that iron atom, your blood would probably be green. Seriously. So you are correct about the magnesium being in the chlorophyll. But the other cool thing is that the chemical compositions of the two of them are virtually the same. So similar, in fact, that during World War II, if the injured, they ran out of blood for blood transfusions for the injured, they used to give them liquid chlorophyll, and they found that would help them heal just as fast as a blood transfusion. Wow. And they also used it topically because chlorophyll kills bacteria. How cool is that?
That's
right?
So cool. I didn't know that.
That's so rad. Yeah. Wow. So there's amazing properties with chlorophyll. And then, of course, the chlorella has the most chlorophyll in the world. That's why it's called chlorella, because of the chlorophyll,
That's so cool. Well, yeah, and one thing to also point out about the iron, I don't eat meat. I eat fish and I eat eggs, so I do have some animal protein, but I rely on algae to get, a good source of iron, and also the B vitamins. B12 specifically, obviously that's really important for optimal health. And because I don't eat meat, I know that, I need to kind of supplement to assure that I'm getting the right amount. And so algae is a great provider of those as well. Yeah.
Right. And I'll go into a couple more of the key attributes of chlorophyll, but I just wanted to mention that one of the incredible things about algae is it has all these vitamins and minerals. It's got over 40. There's probably actually 200 to 300 nutrients if you go through the enzymes and the coenzymes and factors. And so the important point here is that it's food. It's a crop. Yeah. So no processing, completely unadulterated. So your body recognizes all of these beautiful, glorious minerals that are needed to do all this functioning in your body. There's, I don't know how many processes in our body, but there's millions of them. And if you it's sort of like they talk about, the chain is the weakest link is what damages the chain or something like that. And so if you're missing one of these critical nutrients, whether it's iron or magnesium, things just don't work properly.
Right.
So here you have algae. It's got everything you need. It's like your one-stop shop. And the trouble with vitamins is as I mentioned, they're extracts. And so, and they're processed in a lab. And so your body in most cases only absorbs about 5 or 10% of them because they go like, what the heck is this? I tell my young interns, for example, vitamin C actually has 222 components in it, of which ascorbic acid is one. It's just one. Wow. But you pick up any vitamin, and always it says vitamin C from ascorbic acid. So I tell my young 20-year-old interns, it's like, I said, like, that's like going to work with just your shoes on, nothing else. Because it doesn't work properly if you don't have everything that you need. So that's why eating real food, whether it's fruits or vegetables or algae, is always better for your body because there's so much synergy from all of the different nutrients working together. It's like an orchestra. You get the full orchestra. When you eat food. When you just take supplements, it's like having a soloist.
That's such a great way to put it. I have to tell you something funny. So sometimes when I try and keep it really simple when people ask me, well, what's the, the value and the importance? Because obviously, again, it's so complex and there's so many ways we can talk about it. But one of the things that I like to illustrate is, eating spirulina and, algae, basically, I'm like, it's kind of like you're making your mitochondria, which produce ATP, the energy that essentially kind of keeps you alive, right? You're making them really happy. And I kind of visualize my mitochondria like doing the happy dance.
Yeah, you got it.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, and as you get older, you have more and more mitochondria that are damaged, and this is what's leading to fatigue, and it also leads to cancer, or certainly less healthy cells, which don't communicate properly to one another, which then leads to any kind of chronic illness, whether it's diabetes or cancer or obesity, it doesn't matter. So you're absolutely right. Keeping those mitochondria doing their happy dance, that's probably the easiest way to talk about it. And on that note, spirulina has something that's called SOD, superoxide dismutase, and it's very hard to find. Your body does generate it, but as you get older, it creates less of it. And it has, spirulina has the highest concentration of SOD, I think, found in any other nutrient, and it's an antioxidant more powerful than any other vitamin. So it's sort of like charging your phone. Right. So when you take spirulina, it's like plugging your mitochondria into your phone charger. That's another sort of analogy because you can't really figure out how it's working, but it's working. That's all you know. You just know that you got more energy, right?
Totally.
So
that's great.
Yeah, it's the first time I came up with that one, but it is.
It's good. It works.
Yeah. So it is amazing, and that's why it's so important to be sure that you're getting your algae from a company that sources clean, pure, documented, safe algae, because you don't want to be putting in something into your mitochondria that's actually going to end up damaging them, which is probably a good segue because we were talking about chlorella. Yeah. One of the problems with chlorella is that it is a plant, and it has and unlike spirulina that has no cellulose wall, chlorella actually has the hardest cellulose wall in the plant kingdom. Talk about chalk and cheese. So they found out that in order for your body to absorb it, you actually had to crack the outside of the cell at production before your body could absorb it. So 50 years ago, a company called Sun Chlorella patented a technique to crack the chlorella. And what they do is they tumble it physically with glass beads. And this is the technique that's used virtually in all of the, 99% of the chlorella companies. But they always denied that there was any damage done with tumbling of the glass beads. But the state of California about 10 years ago said, we think there's lead in your chlorella. And the company said, no, there isn't. And the state of California said, well, we're going to test it. And sure enough, they found that it tested very high in lead, so high that they had informed the company that they could either stop selling it or put a warning on the packaging. And you can go to Whole Foods, and shame on Whole Foods for selling a product that has lead in it. And it does say right on the packaging, this product has been determined by the state of California to have a product that causes birth defects and brain disorders. Wow. Oh, great. So here you're buying chlorella to remove toxins and build your immune system. And now you're introducing lead into your body. Not such a good thing. So when I found that this was a possibility 10 years ago when I started the company, or 9 years ago, I said, well, that's not going to work for me. We got to find something else that will crack the chlorella. And sure enough, they had just developed a new technique. Wasn't used very much, and it was still, and it was more expensive, but they passed the chlorella through a sound chamber. And it's the vibrations that crack the chlorella. No heat, no glass, no lead. So we are proud that and that's why the Mercury Poisoning Association wants to work with us, the global one, because everybody knows that chlorella pulls mercury, lead, anything out of your body, radiation, but almost everybody has lead in their chlorella except us. So it's and so funny. I told this to somebody recently, and they said, "Oh, it's vibrations that crack the chlorella." Ooh, good vibrations! I like it.
That's so funny. No, that was a big thing. I remember hearing that, and that's huge because again, I think a lot of people, they want to do good things for their body, and so then they go into like a a supplement where you can buy supplements, and obviously there's tons to choose from, and you don't know.
Right.
It's important to be, consuming.
Informed, right.
Yeah, totally. To be informed and to be taking things that are clean. And so I love that about your brand.
Yeah. Well, and also on the mood thing, because I keep doing deep dives. Everybody else is on the beach or, enjoying themselves. I'm in my room, I feel like a crazy scientist with the lights on, finding new things about algae. And I recently discovered that it has the highest concentration of tryptophan.
Oh,
now,
wow.
Tryptophan, two important things about tryptophan. It's a precursor to serotonin, which is the neurotransmitter that makes you feel happy. Mm-hmm. And it's also the precursor to the hormone called melatonin, which helps you sleep. Right. And, we've had customers over the years tell us, oh, after I started taking it, I didn't need to take my depression medication. I'm off my Zoloft. And we thought, wow, I wonder why that happened. And other people were telling us that they were sleeping better at night because we always recommend they take recovery bits at night because it pulls out toxins and helps you with detox. Mm-hmm. And I now think it's the tryptophan that's in the algae. It's in both of them, but the chlorella has the most. It has 5 times the tryptophan as turkey, and I can send you a chart that I got from the Linus Pauling Institute that shows the amount of tryptophan in other food groups, and spirulina and chlorella top it. There's no comparison.
Yeah, I would love to know that.
Yeah, so that so now I know why. Maybe that helps explain why I'm always so happy.
That's so beautiful. I love that.
I'm on a tryptophan high.
That's so great. Well, can I actually ask you a little bit about, because I feel like detox is such a trending word, right? And I think that I want to kind of unpack a little bit just how, like you said, chlorella is the one, I think it's like the only way that you can actually get rid of metals in your body. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but is that, can you talk about that for a second?
Yes. And the way it works, because if you do a juice fast or something, that's helpful, or a water fast, because what the water fast does in particular, it stops your body having to waste energy on digestion, and then you go into a ketogenic state, and you go into what's called autophagy, where it's basically your body cleaning out old dead cells. But other than that, all the other detox things are kind of not really sufficient to remove toxins. They can, the cleansing part comes from the chlorophyll, but the removal comes from something like the only thing I know is the chlorella. And the reason it can do this is it has that hard cellular wall, and there's something about that cellular wall, and they still don't really know it fully, but it attaches itself to things that it knows should not be there. It's called both the algae are called adaptogens. They know what to do in your body. So if you don't need the nutrient, you don't absorb it. But the chlorella seems to be able to pull out anything. It's been used for pull out radiation. They used it at Chernobyl. They used it at Hiroshima. That was when it was first discovered to pull out radiation. And here's an interesting thing to know about. When the Fukushima disaster occurred in Japan 6 or 7 years ago, the world supply of chlorella disappeared within 24 hours, was bought up within 24 hours, because everybody in Asia knows chlorella is the only thing that pulls out radiation. You can take, I'm trying to think of it. There's something you can take to prevent the absorption, but chlorella is the only thing that will pull it out once you have radiation in you. And that's, in fact, why they even use it for people who are getting chemotherapy treatments. And they've been using it for 20 or 30 years this way. So after your chemotherapy treatment, if you take your chlorella, ours is recovery bits, it will pull out the excess chemotherapy so that you're not nauseous. Because, I know anybody gets chemotherapy, you're so sick for about a day or two afterwards. So this pulls it out so that you don't have that. So the activity is the ability of the chlorella cell wall to attach and pull out whatever is in there. And ironically, you're going to get a chuckle over this, but it works. It does the same for alcohol. So after you drink anything, wine, liquor, beer, the algae, chlorella only, detects it as a toxin, and it will pull it out of your bloodstream in an hour and a half. You will be stone sober in an hour and a half, and so you will never have a hangover. So the alcohol never goes through your liver. We've had people tell us that we help them survive their trip to Vegas or their bachelorette party. And it works. And quite honestly, it's one of the reasons I tell people to take the spirulina, which is the energy that's in the morning, because it will energize you in the morning and the afternoon, and to take the chlorella at night. Two reasons is that your body goes through a detox cycle anyways when you're sleeping, so this is a natural way to facilitate that. But also, if you've had a couple of glasses of wine and you're used to taking your chlorella at night anyways, this will protect you, so it will pull out the toxins from the alcohol, and you won't feel awful the next morning. So it is pretty amazing. So it's mercury, lead, alcohol, and to show you how intelligent the algae is, I read a report, or actually it was a short video I saw, and they were using, and I think it was chlorella, to provide chemotherapy treatments to people. Because the trouble with chemotherapy is it basically kills everything, kills both the unhealthy cells and your healthy white blood cells. So what they did is they injected the chemo treatment into the algae, and I don't know whether they delivered the algae orally or through intravenously, but nonetheless, the algae found the cancer and attached to it and delivered the chemotherapy directly to the cancer sore and didn't touch the rest of the body. How amazing is that?
That's amazing.
I mean, it's just so cool. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like for this, for it to survive this many years. I mean,
I know.
It's like
how many ice ages, droughts,
right?
Seismic movements of the Earth, and it's still friggin' there. It's just so yeah. There's something about it that's got to be, and that's why I feel blessed to be the one sharing it with the world, because I'm the only person I know that would enjoys going into the science, wading deep into the science to pull out these little nuggets about why it's working so well. Yeah. I used to give talks at triathlon clubs, and they used to nail me. This is when I first started. They said, how can something with just 1 calorie per tab give me energy? Because all the athletes have been taught that energy comes from calories. And anybody who follows a ketogenic diet knows that that's not true. But so I said, you know what? This is like 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know why it works, but I know it does, but I will find out why. And so that's when I started doing my deep dives in the science. And I now have about 20 points, which I can share with you the document that goes through nutrient by nutrient about why it gives you energy. And some of the simple things are things like it has the highest concentration of iron. Yeah. Iron is what carries oxygen in your blood. So if you don't have enough iron, you can't carry oxygen, so you fatigue. Another example is that, when you do exercise or you even just go about your daily business, your body is constantly throwing off antioxidant or free radicals. And for athletes, they throw off lactic acid because it builds up from their exercising.
Yep.
And so what happens is when you have that much acidity in your blood momentarily, the negative charge around your hemoglobin, which is what carries the oxygen and iron and all that sort of, the negative charge is stripped off because of this acidity. So now your hemoglobin clumps, and two things happen. It can no longer carry oxygen, so you fatigue. And it now is so fat that it can't fit into all those teeny tiny capillaries. I think there's 80 billion of them or something, or trillion, in your muscles. So you fatigue there too. So the algae is so alkaline that it automatically, instantly restores the negative charge to the hemoglobin. So now they're the normal shape. So now they can, they don't clump. And now they can carry the iron and carry the oxygen so you don't fatigue anymore. So those are, just two little things. And there's, like I said, I've got like a list of 18 or 20 because I needed to help people understand why this stuff was working. And there was only 1 calorie.
Yeah,
so,
that's really impressive. It seems magical, truly.
I know.
But that's
well, and I now give talks at a lot of science conferences, and very often after in the Q&A, people come up and they say, it almost is unbelievable. Do you have science? And I said, yes, I have science. I have binders. I have binders with like thousands and thousands of studies, so you can see that I'm not making this up. It's all been documented. It's just that no one's gone through the documents and created sort of like the top hit, the top 10 list of the week of algae. So that's what I've tried to do. But there's so much more to tell. And my team always roll their eyes when people start asking me about algae because I could go on for days.
I love it. I know. Well, it's so complex. There's so many.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're still, even as you dive deeper and deeper. I'm sure there's even more to discover, which has to excite you, right?
Yeah. Well, on that note, I discovered something new about a month ago. I don't know if you've been reading about the vitamin K2.
Yeah.
A lot of us have heard recently about K1, which is in greens, so kale and spinach. And it's very important because it helps with your blood clotting. Mm-hmm. But a new vitamin was discovered about 10 years ago, and they called it K2. Now, it's completely different than from K1, and you can only get K2 from grass-fed dairy or animal protein, or from fermented foods like natto, which is a very pungent Japanese dish that virtually nobody likes here. And the reason why K2 is so important, and I just about fell off my chair when I learned about this, is because heart disease is not caused by cholesterol. Heart disease is caused by inflammation of your blood vessels and calcification of your arteries. So what happens is all the calcium gets into your arteries and they become inflexible and they build up. And then two things happen. Either the blood can't flow, so you have a heart attack, or pieces of the calcium crystallized break off and you end up with a stroke. So K2 is the only nutrient that gets the calcium out of your blood vessels and back into your bones and teeth where it belongs. And but the reason why most people there's so much heart disease is because there's virtually no source of K2. Because first of all, grass-fed beef food groups or grass-fed dairy was almost unavailable until about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's still very expensive. So of course everyone's walking around with loads of calcium in their blood vessels. Yeah. So when I discovered this, I thought, oh my God, I wonder if there's K2 in our algae. Ta-da! Guess what? That's K2 in our algae. Not only K1, but K2, and especially in the chlorella, it gives you your daily requirement of K2 from algae. So now, if you want to protect your heart, you don't have to worry about trying to go and get some grass-fed beef. You can just have the algae. And the reason why it's in the grass-fed beef is because the animals that are grass-fed are eating green that has K1 in it, right? Right? And then they have a bacteria. There's that bacteria thing again. Yeah. They have a bacteria in their stomach that converts the K1 to K2. So now when we eat the dairy or the meat from the grass-fed animals, we're absorbing the K2. And for a while, they thought that humans had the same bacteria, but it turns out we do not. So I tell people, you can eat a room full of kale, and you will not get a drop of K2. It's only from grass-fed food supplies or from highly fermented foods like natto, and now from algae.
That's amazing,
So,
because when I actually discovered, started kind of learning more about K2, I actually bought a supplement and thought, okay, I got a supplement because again, I don't eat meat. You know, I don't eat dairy or meat, and so
right.
but I do have my energy back. So
Yeah,
I've been
there you
getting my
go.
K2. That's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Well, and anecdotally, we used to have people calling us after a week of taking the algae, and they go, "Oh my God, my blood pressure is normal, first time in my life."
Wow.
And part of it's because of the omega-3s and the essential fatty acids that are reducing inflammation, and part of it's because with the spirulina, it's got nitrogen base, so nitric oxide opens up your blood vessels, so your blood can flow faster and cleaner. But now I realize part of it had to be from the K2, which is cleaning out that calcium deposit and getting it out of the blood vessel, which helps reduce the blood pressure to a normal level again. I can't emphasize enough how important K2 is. And again, you're always better to get your source of your nutrient like K2 from food.
Right.
Rather than from the supplements. So yeah, you're in lockdown. You don't need to buy the supplements, which is why I tell people, I know our algae does appear expensive, but when you think about, we have discount codes, and I know we have one to share with your listeners that will give them 20% off. But it gives you energy and satisfies your hunger, so you don't need as many groceries.
Right.
And it's a replacement for your multivitamin, your fish oil, because it's the original source of omega-3. Forget the fish oil; they're all pretty much rancid anyways. So that causes, does the opposite of what it's supposed to do. So you get rid of your your fish oil. You don't need magnesium or potassium or any of those minerals. So you now just, eliminated 3 or 4 supplements. And so you'll save your money by not having to buy those. And of course, you're going to absorb more nutrients anyways because algae is food.
Well, and I what I love to point out too is, I mean, I voice this a lot to, all the people who listen in and followers online. There's no free lunch when it comes to our health, whether you're paying now or you're paying later.
Right.
There's a paying process that is going to happen, and why not pay for things that are going to, allow for a more robust life. So not just about
exactly
it's all about longevity, living longer, but it's more about having more robust years in your long life. So, when you're 80 and you're cognitively firing, you're running a 5K, hopefully you're doing these things. So, that's what I love promoting, because I think that so often, especially younger people walk around and you don't feel DNA damage, right? It's insidious.
Right.
And so, yes, you can look at, a supplement, or you can look at things and be like, oh, it's expensive, but it's like, well, not really when you're thinking about, and this is actually a segue into something I did want to talk about, but, aside from everything that you just mentioned of how great the algae is for you, but I think that there's also, and you pointed out some already, but the protective issue. So as a celebrity makeup artist, I'm susceptible to people are in my face for a living, you know what I mean?
Right.
And all this breathing on me, and it's with all this crazy cold and flu stuff that just happened, or maybe is still happening, I don't know, but I'm proud to say, I beat it, and it's for sure, it's the whole combination of lifestyle, the fiber, feeding my microbiome, all that stuff. But if I ever started, because I remember there was one moment in the last couple of months where I felt lower in my, just kind of like, oh, it's a tipping point. You know what I do? I open that bag, Catherine, and I down it. I'm like munching because there's so many protective qualities, that strengthen your immune system. And one thing that, this is going towards that segue. Again, I don't eat meat, but one thing that I loved hearing you talk about before is mTOR and just how to mitigate damage for those who eat meat, a lot of meat, the paleo diet, and just for people who eat lots of meat in general. I loved learning about how, the algae can be a kind of like, I think you put it like as a seatbelt, kind of protector.
Safety belt. Yeah, exactly.
Can you unpack
Yeah.
that?
Sure. Well, a lot of, and I don't want to get any paleo people angry with me, but they should definitely be taking algae if they're following a paleo diet or a keto diet because of the natural healing properties of chlorophyll that they're obviously missing out on.
Yeah.
But the protein, what they're finding is protein, and there's certain amino acids, and I should know them by heart by now, but that stimulate cellular growth, and that's fine when you're 18 or in your early 20s, and maybe you're growing. It's certainly important when you're growing, and when you want to be building muscle mass.
Like leucine.
But
Leucine is one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at a certain glycine, I think, me too. And as you get older, however, you don't need all that cellular growth. It's the same reason why you don't need mothers. You don't need milk, because milk was meant for high growth babies for the first 2 years of their development. After that, you don't need it because it's loaded with hormones for a reason, because you're supposed to grow. Well, same with protein. You don't need a lot of the animal protein when you're older, because you don't need to be growing because you've stopped growing, and maybe you're probably not going to be going into any muscle man fitness competitions either. And so what happens is you're still eating all that, pounding back all that protein. Well, guess what? It does still stimulate growth, but by the time you're older, we all have cancer cells in our bodies. And if our immune systems are not functioning properly, like almost everybody, because we're so loaded with toxins, what happens is that protein is stimulating cancer growth, and that's this mTOR pathway. And that's what gets us into some trouble. So the great thing about the algae is that it provides you with the protein, but does not stimulate the mTOR pathway, because it doesn't have the same effect on the mTOR pathway, which is caused by animal protein. So now it's a win-win. You're getting the protein that you need, but you're not stimulating cancer cells. And in fact, the opposite happens. We work with Dr. Dominique D'Agostino, who's well known in the keto community, and he's doing all sorts of research. And I'm also working with his colleague, Dr. David Diamond, who's an expert in cholesterol. And they've been studying, he's been testing his blood and finding that the algae reduces inflammation, it reduces oxidative stress, it reduces everything that improves your health, that reduces the metabolic diseases. So it's very much an aid to healing, either protecting or reversing some of these illnesses that we're plagued with. And I have to be careful because I don't want the FDA to shut me down about making any claims. But I'm just sharing with you some of the results of some tests, and there's been lots and lots of tests about this. So you obviously need protein because your body needs protein, and you can't store protein, so you need to have it every day. But you don't need it from an animal source. Or you don't need as much, certainly. And if you are going to eat it, try to go for the grass-fed, because then you get the K2 at least in it.
Right. That's so cool. I thank you so much for unpacking that, because I remember that, again, even though I don't eat meat, there's a lot of people who listen who do. I mean, and so I think that that's an important thing to note, because knowing how to protect yourself is and especially in a very organic way is important.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, and the mTOR pathway, the stimulation comes from the iron it's called hemi-iron that's found in red meat, and we have non-hemi-iron, and that's what the main difference is. Plant-based iron does not have is non-hemi-iron and leucine. It doesn't have the same effect. So it's called the stimulation of IgG1, the insulin-like growth factor.
Right.
So yeah.
So cool.
I keep trying to find something wrong with algae, and I cannot find anything wrong with it.
That's important too. That's great. But wow, there's so much to take in, and thank you so much for unpacking all of that, because again, I think it's so important, and I love your brand, and I'm in full support and will continue to be so. I mean, because I feel like you're supporting the overall wellness of my life, so
right.
and obviously many others.
Yeah, and a couple of just last final points I'd like to make is that I'm very proud of the fact that algae is probably the most eco-friendly, sustainable crop in the world. You get all that great omega-3 from the algae, so you protect the oceans because there's so much overfishing going on right now because everybody wants fish oil, and it's overfishing and damaging the ocean. So the fish, where do you think the fish get the omega-3 from? They get it from algae. They don't make omega-3. They eat it and they consolidate it. So algae is a more sustainable source for the omega-3. You get 100 times more protein per acre than you do from cattle ranching, or 50 times more than soy. It releases all that gorgeous oxygen and captures carbon dioxide while it's growing. And it uses a tenth of the water from plant crops. Amazing. So and it kills bacteria, so you can use the same water. So it's very eco-friendly. And the last thing is, you're in the cosmetic, beauty industry. Yeah. Guess what? Algae is one of the best things for your skin and hair health because the alkaline keeps the blemishes down, keeps your pH level where it should be. It provides all that gorgeous protein. Right. Your skin is collagen and your hair is keratin. The antioxidants prevent aging, which is really, really critical. There's the calcium, the vitamin C, vitamin E. I mean, it's got everything that you need. We say, you get beauty from the inside out. So,
well, one of my hashtags on Black Belt Beauty is beauty fuel. And that's,
I like that.
So when I've posted in the past pictures of, my Vitality Bits, and I hashtag beauty fuel because it is,
nice.
It's giving you everything from the inside and out to feel your best and essentially help promote looking your best as well. And then that lends to performing great. So it's Black Belt Beauty approved for sure.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I wrote an article recently. I'll share with you if you want.
Yeah.
As I said, algae it gives you all the nutrients and it satisfies your hunger. And on top of it, you get all these beauty benefits. And so one of my lines in my article was, when was the last time you snacked on your face cream?
Well, yeah, you know what? It's like this is another hashtag, nutritional makeup.
Yeah. Really I like that.
Is, right?
Ooh, can I borrow that one?
Totally
I've never.
Yes.
I like that. Nutritional makeup. Oh, you're hot. You're in a roll. Okay, I'll put you on that one.
It's one thing for me to be, putting. Not all of my makeup is organic and natural, although I do use as much as I can that will deliver the performance that I need. Because there's no room for error on the level of makeup that I do. But I really do believe that as much as we can kind of take care of the insides, we're taking care of the outsides,
right?
And in an organic way. And I think that nature truly provides. So then this goes back to how smart algae is, and I believe that without knowing all the things that I know the way that you do. It's like it's a very kind of logical understanding for me because of course it's all connected,
right.
And the more that we stay connected to it, I feel the more that we live optimally.
Well, it's funny because you call it smart food. I tell people it's intelligent food because you have to be intelligent to take it, and it knows what to do in your body, so it's really smart. But it just occurred to me, one of the big new things that's going on right now is grounding, which I totally am all about because I love being outside. And I thought, I think algae is really grounding because it's came from it's the first thing on earth. How totally. It doesn't get any more grounding than that.
Totally. No, I believe that so much. I'm a geek with my food because again, like most of my food is plant-based, and I do eat animal, protein like eggs and things like that. And I'll tell you, and I don't care. I'm already a weirdo and a dork, but when it comes to all this stuff, but when I sit down and I eat my dinner and I have this big beautiful bowl. I like to eat in bowls of a variety of dark leafy greens and avocado and baru nuts and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
I give my food so much love because it is love and it's going back into my body and it
loves you back. It loves you back.
And I feel that. I feel that so much. I feel like it does show and and I'm glad to have algae as a part of that too. And
got it.
Yeah, I'm grateful for it, and I feel
We're going to have to hang out together. Cause I can't go out with anybody in Boston, or I have to leave because nobody understands me. I don't go out for dinner anymore because I do exactly what you just described. And it's like, man, where are my peeps that get this?
I know. Well, you know what? We're here. We're kind of, I know, I feel like there's a small circle of us, but I do feel like we're growing and it's exciting and refreshing. But I know, I feel the same way as you. And really, I mean, I think it's just, you know, like I said, the deeper that we stay connected to nature, to this kind of oneness of the earth that we live in, I feel like, you know, the more fulfilling life that we get to live. And that, you know, obviously includes, you know, vitality or health. And so it's kind of like, it's so funny. It's really logical to me. That's how my brain processes it, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're respecting your body and we're respecting the earth. And we have not respected either very well for the last 30 or 40 years. So
you're right.
I'm very proud to be part of the respect movement.
I love it.
It'll be the respect me too. Hashtag respect me too.
That's so great. That's so great. Well, I am so grateful for all of the knowledge that you have and shared with us. I mean, we do have to hang out. When you come down this way, we can go hang out on the beach together and then thank our food. And
you got it. And I want to be sure your listeners know where to buy their algae, so they can go to our website, energybits.com, and we have a 20% discount code Black Belt Beauty, all one word. Just put that into the coupon box when you check out, and you'll see your discount apply. It works on everything forever.
Thank you.
And by the way, please buy as much algae as you can, because I take so much. I think I'm going to live forever, so I need people to be alive along with me. You know, I don't want to be alone.
I will go buy more today for sure. That's so amazing. And can you tell our listeners how they can find you online, social media, stay in touch with?
We're everywhere. We have a really cool Instagram stream, so it's Energy Bits. Facebook, same thing, Energy Bits. Twitter, same thing, Energy Bits. And we also have another handle, Skinny Bits, on Instagram. We're trying to start building that up. But Energy Bits is we're everywhere. We're trying to be, anyways. But those are the three active ones, and then the website. And we're and we have a blog, so if you want to learn different things every month, we put up something. So, it's
I'll
put
very all
fun.
that in the show notes too.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine.
You're very welcome. Well, thank you.
you.
I really hope we hang out together sometime.
I know. Well, I will definitely stay in touch for sure. We'll make it happen.
All right,
Thank you so
good stuff.
much. Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for taking the time to check out this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please share it with your friends. Head over to iTunes, subscribe to this podcast, rate it, leave me an honest review. Let's connect. I am so excited to do that in this space and really create content that elevates your mind in support of your best performance in life. You can find me on Instagram at Black Belt Beauty. I'm active there every single day, and I look forward to connecting with you all. So thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next one.